Man, I had a lot of fun watching football this weekend. The NAIA quarterfinals did not disappoint at all. Four very good games. And I have to ask, did any of you pick all four games right? I can tell you with certainty that I did not. But I still had a better percentage than what I had the week before. That was with 8 games. 3 out of 4, that's not bad. That's not exactly, the way that Meatloaf said it in that song years ago, but 3 out of 4 really isn't that bad. I'll take it for the playoffs any way around. Hey, I'm Joey McWilliams. Glad you're watching tonight here on Midwest Sports Net. I appreciate you all watching. We're going to talk about the top 5 performances. We're going to go through all of the games here, though, because we can do that on a night like tonight when there's not 46 games on the docket. When there are only 4 games on the docket, we can talk about all 4 of them. And I'll tell you what we had as the top 5 performances. Yes, Roger, thank you. It was Meatloaf, but still, I think he was talking about 2 out of 3. I'll take my 3 out of 4. It's actually a little bit better percentage. We will go with that. So the first game on the docket, we'll talk about our teams in the order of which they are ranked, not rated or seeded really at this point in time, because outside of a true bracket, there are no seeds. I'll give you my analogy to that here in just a little bit. But talking about the top team in the country, it is Kaiser. And Kaiser left really no doubt in a game that I thought were going to be, 2 tough defenses, which they were. And the defenses showed up for a while there. First quarter, 7-7. Georgetown able to hold tight for a little while, but then 17 points by Kaiser in the second quarter. And it really, that's what blew it open for the game at that point in time. Shea Spencer, just phenomenal for the day. 23 of 31, 2 out of 239 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns, and no interceptions. He also had 8 carries for 45 yards on the ground as well. So a fantastic day for Shea Spencer. I think you have to give him as much credit. What a job he did leading his team over the course of the day against a very tough Georgetown defense. Yes, Roger, first math reference of the show. I love math. I love numbers. And sometimes I even like showing off a little bit and, doing percentages and things like that. So Mrs. Midwest Sportsnet, I will say that for her. She says I'm showing off. I don't think I am. I think I'm just doing, what God made me to do. So that's all right. Roll Stangs from Dale. Roll Stangs from Dave. We will get to the Stangs in just a moment. But again, Shea Spencer, 239 yards. And again, 4 touchdown passes on a day when touchdown passes really weren't the order of business, as there was a lot of ground that was covered literally on the ground or on the turf, I guess, as the case may be. So Spencer with those 4 passing touchdowns, absolutely fantastic. Andrew Burnett, 25 carries. Now, he got a workload as well. They held him to under 100 yards. I would not take that, Kaiser fans, as any kind of detriment to what Burnett can do. Obviously, we've seen him be able to carry the ball 7 times out of the last 8 for more than 100 yards on the ground. They held him just 95, but again, a testament to what he does in giving him the ball those 25 times. 1 rushing touchdown, had 3 catches for 21 yards too. Rufino Van Gates, 6 catches, 53 yards, and a TD. Rico Portia, 6 catches, 52 yards, and a TD as well. And how about for Kaiser, Evan Jackson and Hunter Hargrave, each with 7 tackles. Michael, good to see you tonight. Jana, good to see you tonight as well. And Jana giving some props to Shea Spencer, that he was fantastic. But, you have to say Andrew did a very good job yesterday as well. So props to that offense and what's going on there. So I'm going to put that one up there, Roger, just because I like it. Mathematically out of it. So go Sports. We'll take it from there and just roll. Scrambled eggs. Burnett is a beast, and he absolutely is. Had to be. Well, you know what? That's fine. He did have to do that. Georgetown. This is where I believe the defense, the statistic that probably says as much about anything for what Kaiser did on defense. Held Georgetown to just 2 of 11 on third down. That's just 18%. And yes, Roger, I did do that percentage in my head a little bit later. I saw that it was actually printed too, but that's okay. 18% on third down. It's tough to win a game against the number 1 team in the country if you're converting only 18% converting to first downs only 18% of the time. Garrick Slunaker to Luke Olive. It was a 69-yard touchdown pass at the end of the first quarter that made it a 7-7 score. And really, that was the big play for Georgetown. The Kaiser defense just buckled up and got it done and kept Georgetown in check. A late touchdown to make it, put 22 points on the board. Props to the Tigers for that. But I think you have to give a lot of credit to what the Kaiser defense did in light of that. Darius Neal, 15 carries. He was held just 69 yards on the day. He had a rushing touchdown. Chad Halloran asked to do a lot for Georgetown on defense. He has been all season. He's been doing a lot. He had 18 tackles for the Tigers in this one, but props to Kaiser. And again, led by a very sharp Shea Spencer in this one. He had some significant numbers on the day. Shea Spencer and Michael will put this one up here really quickly. Player of the year. I think there could be a lot that could be said for that. So we'll see how this all turns out. And by the way, I did not see, and I needed to check this. Forgive me. I like to be a little bit more prepared than that. I did not see who the Sun Conference Player of the Year was. And they'll take that NAIA Player of the Year from the pool of Conference Players of the Year. So was Shea Spencer the Sun Conference Player of the Year? I'll let somebody let me know in the chat. In the meantime, 38-22, Kaiser remains undefeated, 11 consecutive wins for the Seahawks. We will continue along through the day. And, it's just 4 games tonight. May not be a long show unless you guys just want to visit, and I'm all about that because I love visiting with you all. It really does make my night. Grandview hosting Northwestern. Second meeting between the two ever, and this one goes to Grandview, and the Vikings remain undefeated. 12-0. For Grandview, it was the 4th shutout this season, and I think that's significant. But you have to give a lot of props to Northwestern on defense, too. This was the game in which the defenses, as much as any of them, all day long, really was showcased and highlighted for what the Vikings did to keep a Northwestern team completely off the scoreboard on the day is big. But don't forget, Grandview also was held to its lowest point total of the season, too. 17 points. Props to the Northwestern defense. You might think that holding the Vikings to just 17 points would be enough. And I think maybe in another iteration of this Northwestern team, holding the Vikings to just 17 points would have been enough. Could not get the ball moved as well as they needed to. And if you look at the number for both of these teams, total offense was less than 200 yards for both of the teams combined, as Grandview was able to pick up 271 yards of total offense on the day, Northwestern 218 yards of total offense on the day. Jackson Waring, 13 for 22, completed better than 50% of his passes for just 160 yards, no touchdowns thrown, no interceptions thrown either. He was 12 for 47 rushing, though, and he picked up a couple of touchdowns on the ground. He was not only the leading passer for Grandview of the day, obviously he's the starting quarterback, he was also the leading rusher on the day. So props to that in Grandview. All right, Davier Jones, John Argo, each with 7 tackles apiece. And Aaron Brown had 3 tackles, but of those 3, 2.5 were tackles for loss. He had 1.5 sacks on the day and 1 forced fumble. It was the only turnover of the day, and Grandview able to take advantage of that. Northwestern, Colby Duncan, the freshman, 14 for 30 passing, just 96 passing yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. That was the starting quarterback number for both teams. No touchdowns thrown, no interceptions. The defense really bore down, and I think there's just so much to be said for that. Parker Fryer with 15 tackles, 4 tackles for loss on the day. Andrew Simpson, thank you, Andrew, for showing up tonight. Final 4, let's go. All right, this is another question, and I want to know, again, if somebody knows this in the chat, please let me know on this. In the NAIA, they don't use Final 4 for basketball because that's a trademarked NCAA thing. So they talk about the Fab 4, and I was curious, and I hadn't seen anything all weekend long. So maybe someone has seen this. In football, do they call it the Fab 4? I know they call it the Fab 4 in basketball for sure. I have seen that listed in other sports, I believe, for the NAIA. However, I have not seen it in football. We know it's national semifinalists, but is it the Fab Four? So I'm just curious. And that's not to take away from your statement, Andrew. Absolutely, it is the Final Four. They are down to that. But I didn't know if there was a trademarked NAIA name for that. Would be curious if anyone knows that. So anyway, and the internet's undefeated, guys. I mean, you guys know these things probably better than anyone. So anyway, Northwestern shut out, but the Red Raiders back in the playoffs, I think they represented the GPAC well. I think they represented themselves well. There were folks who said, okay, should Northwestern be in? Should it be Concordia? Should it be Southeastern? There were lots of questions about that. I believe Northwestern represented itself well, and 9-3 on the season. Commendable year when there were adjustments over the course of the year. Coach McCarty did a fantastic job. So shout out to them, but the Vikings will advance. So with that in mind, that we move on along, and let's bring this one up here. This was the game I didn't get right, as Benedictine, the lowest ranked team still remaining in the football championship series. Now, and it comes to the point now where the teams seem to be, with their ranking coinciding with their seeding. That wasn't the case all the way through, but you guys know how I feel about seeds. So if it's not a true bracket, then the seeds don't matter. And that just reminds me of Whose Line Is It Anyway, where you all remember that, where Drew Carey would come out at the start of each show and he would say, welcome to Whose Line Is It Anyway, where everything is made up and the points don't matter. That's right. The points don't matter. Just like when you return the kickoff 95 yards for a game-tying touchdown and the score, when all along a flag was thrown at the start of the return, and it just doesn't matter. No points. Is that too soon, Montana Western? I love you, Montana Western. I really do. Maybe that was too soon. Anyway, so Benedictine, the lowest ranked team, still going, and they are still going. A heartbreaker to the higher seeds in back-to-back weekends, and I don't know what this is saying, that this Benedictine squad, you're taking out the Wesleyan teams there. Texas Wesleyan last week, Indiana Wesleyan this week, 20-9 the score. I probably watched more of this game on Saturday than I did the others, because it came on a little bit earlier before the other one started. And so I was able to get invested in it before, switching back and forth and seeing some of the other games as they're going on. I should have used more than one monitor. I'll work on that in the future. Hey, Lenny, shout out to Lenny, another Roll Stangs out there. So props to you. We'll talk about the Stangs in a moment. Benedictine, these two teams combined for no touchdown passes. Not only that, there were 4 interceptions in this one. I'm telling you, these make Shea Spencer's numbers look so much better on the day, because these previous 2 games, no touchdown passes thrown for either team. 4 interceptions, by the way, between Benedictine and Indiana Wesleyan. Jackson Dooley threw 1. He was 18 for 33 passing on the day, 193 passing yards, didn't throw a passing touchdown. Again, Dalton Witherspoon, another game in which he did what he needed to do, and it wound up being just enough. 16 carries for 45 yards. Witherspoon with 1 rushing touchdown on the day, and Javi Blomquist on defense for Benedictine. Shout out to him, because it seemed like every time that Indiana Wesleyan was trying to move something through, Blomquist was going to be there on defense to shut things down. He had 11 tackles on the day. For Indiana Wesleyan, season comes to an end at 11-2, which, by the way, is Benedictine's record as well. Ryan Whitwell crosses the century mark, 20 carries for 102 yards. He was stopped at the line a couple of times. It was very solidly, too. He did have 1 rushing touchdown on the day. That is the score on the board, the 6 points there, and the conversion didn't happen. Kyle Antoine, 21 for 43 passing, just less than 50% completion on the day, 211 passing yards, no touchdowns, and 3 interceptions thrown on the day. Indiana Wesleyan, led by Clayton Mosier and Luke Bays, no surprise there, each with 10 tackles, but Benedictine comes away. And props to what Coach Osborne has done with this team. Made adjustments against Texas Wesleyan, got out and got the early lead and never looked back. Just really kept their foot on the gas, especially on defense, and kept things alive and going. Did not really give Indiana Wesleyan a chance to find life at any point in time. A little bit of a breeze blowing over the course of the day. It was chilly there as well, and I say that from the comfort of southeastern Oklahoma in this broadcast right now. It's cold here too. But anyway, in watching that, so that presents its own challenges. But Benedictine, a long road trip last weekend, another long road trip this weekend. Oh, and by the way, a really long road trip coming up for next Saturday. But props to the Ravens. I didn't pick them either time. Spoiler alert, it is very likely I'm not going to pick them on Thursday night either. But for what Coach Osborne's done in really getting this team in. And you have to think, too, this was a team, again, shared the conference title or the divisional title, the Heart South title with Baker and with Mid-America Nazarene, just like it did last year. This year, all three teams make it to the playoffs. Benedictine had the lesser record numbers-wise than what the other two did, but the Ravens are still playing football, and here in the month of December, they're going to be playing in the middle of December too. So props to what Coach Osborne has done. Shout out to them, and a shout out to the Ravens, the number 9 ranked team in the country, which leads us to roll Stangs. And the Stangs did roll, but it took them a little while to get rolling. The Montana Western Bulldogs were holding serve, if you will, and I thoroughly enjoy mixing sports metaphors here. They were definitely holding serve in the first half and taking care of the business that they needed to. A 24-10 lead at halftime. It seemed like everything that could go right was going right for Montana Western. Not the case for Morningside in the first half. You flip things around after the intermission, and again, props to Coach Ryan and to the boys for executing. Things shifted in the second half, and the things that were going right for Montana Western started to go right for Morningside. Found some openings on offense, able to put points on the board. And as Dale mentions, the defensive adjustments there, they shut down the Bulldogs in the second half, which I didn't think that would happen. And watching that game, and specifically in the second half of that game, I didn't think you were going to shut down the Bulldogs entirely, especially keeping them off the board entirely. Props to Eli Norris. A decent day for him. He almost tied things back up. Eli Norris with a 95-yard, what would have been touchdown return. It was called back because a flag was thrown at the outset of the return. I agree with you, Dale. The defensive adjustments were big against a very, very strong offensive team in Montana Western with what Michael Palandri can do, has done over the course of this season. And, he was not able to connect as well in the second half. The ground game was shut down more in the second half, and of course, then keeping them off the board. Morningside, 21 unanswered points in the second half. Zach Chevalier, 23 for 35 passing, 347 passing yards, 4 passing touchdowns, but he threw 2 picks as well. Props to the Bulldogs on defense. Max Huff, 15 carries for 62 yards on the day. And how about Drew Sellen? 11 receptions on the day. That was the big day there. 182 yards receiving, and that is more than half of the passing yards thrown by Chevalier on the day. 2 receiving touchdowns, including the game-winning touchdown, a 63-yard catch across the middle. And as he was sprinting to the end zone, there was just nobody that was going to catch him there. He found the seam, and he was able to take advantage of it. So Sellen with the game-winning touchdown reception. He now leads the NAIA with 1,658 receiving yards on the year, 16 receiving touchdowns. That's tied for second on the year. He'll have a way to go to catch Monroe, so probably it would take at least 2 more games to get it done. That's the max he could play at this point in time. So that number is likely to grow from 1,658, but it is the most receiving yards in the NAIA this season. How about Zach Norton? 7 catches himself for 120 yards. He had a receiving touchdown, as did Lennox Brown. 4 catches for 41 yards. Brown, converted quarterback to receiver, he's been able to find his stride this season as well. 1 receiving touchdown for him. That accounts for the 4 touchdowns. They were all thrown by Chevalier, and Sellen, Norton, and Brown on the receiving end of that, finding a way to take it on in for the score. It was the 21 unanswered points in the second half that made the difference. And Montana Western with Michael Palandri, 27 of 41 for the day, 368 passing yards on the day. It's defensive in the second half. He was getting things done in the first half, had the one passing touchdown, didn't throw a pick. Jake Humphrey, who has been solid for the Bulldogs this year. Here's another way. We talked about the ground game being shut down as well. 9 carries for just 29 yards, 1 rushing touchdown. And Eli Norse had a receiving touchdown, 7 catches for 96 yards, had a rushing touchdown, just the 1 carry, but he took it in the end zone from 2 yards out. Nearly had a special teams touchdown as well to go for the trifecta. That would have tied things up, but again, it didn't. So Morningside comes away with a huge victory on the road in Dillon. And Morningside will go on the road again this week. It will not be as far a trip. For those of you who are in the greater Sioux City area, that's good for you. For Jeff, who may happen to be watching right now, that's going to be back to a longer road trip for you again. Morningside moves on to the semifinals over Montana Western, 31-24. That is the final right there. So with that in mind, then let me move on over to, let's see, checking the chat there. Yeah, Michael says it's going to be 78 degrees in West Palm Beach. I don't think Des Moines is going to have that same luxury. Let's bring the top 5 out here. We have one from each of the teams that won. And you know what? Props to Eli Norse. His efforts on the day, and I probably should have put Palandri up there with him. So let's mention Michael Palandri in that. He had a pretty good day as well. But Eli Norse with the receiving touchdown, the rushing touchdown, he did his part, and he was one of our top 5 performers on the day. Javi Blomquist with 11 tackles for Benedictine. Fantastic effort on his part. I think you have to give him all the credit for that. It was a defensive effort to hold an Indiana Wesleyan team to just 9 points on their home turf. Big day for him as well. Props to Jackson Waring, the quarterback for Grandview, and he was able to get those 2 rushing touchdowns. That was all that Grandview needed. Actually, 1 was all that Grandview needed, but he got the 2 rushing touchdowns, even though he did not throw a passing touchdown on the day. He also had no interceptions either. He took care of business for his team. Jackson Waring, one of our top 5 performance. And we can't go, through this list without Shea Spencer. Absolutely. Talking about what Spencer did, we've mentioned it repeatedly. 4 passing touchdowns and no interceptions on the day against a Georgetown defense that is mighty and continues to be mighty. So props to him for that. And then, of course, from Morningside, Drew Sellen, now the leader in the NAIA with receiving yards, well more than 1,600 of them. 2 receiving touchdowns on the day, 11 catches. That was the high for all 4 of those games as well. So with that in mind, let me go ahead and keep that list up there really quickly. I want to go back for just a moment to something that I talked about last week. I want to mention it again, and not knowing, who's going to win or lose or whatever the case may be. Let's talk about some teams that lost then. Okay. Let's talk about Georgetown. Georgetown continuing to make pushes in the playoffs. This is a team that is being built to win a championship and go farther into and make a deeper run in the NAIA football championship series. You have to take these steps, and Georgetown taking another step to the quarterfinals and getting in there and making, I think, a statement with that final score against Kaiser. Kaiser clearly the better team on the day, but Georgetown making its presence known, and that was on the road in West Palm Beach. From the Grandview Northwestern game, Northwestern's been there, done that. I mean, no doubt who they are. Indiana Wesleyan and Montana Western, both taking steps. Now, I realize Indiana Wesleyan's been to the semis before in this run, but with Coach Rohde and pushing them along, they did not drop off. Had a great guest in Jonathan Mathis on Friday. Really nice opportunity to get to visit with him and talk about how the team's gone. We had some time constraints and really didn't get to go as far as I would like to have on that day. But this is an Indiana Wesleyan team also being built for a championship team. And how about Montana Western? And I don't know if that the stat meant as much to you as it meant to me. So I'm going to say it again really quickly. Montana Western, with a football program since 1940, has had 3 seasons in which the Bulldogs have had at least 9 wins. Okay. One of them, I believe was 2002. Go back and check that one. I could be completely wrong on that. The other two were 2023 and 2024. What Coach Norse is doing right now, and he's been with the program for a while, but it's been building up and building up and building up, and now, making it to the playoffs this season again and getting in there. Now they're taking steps. Now they're going a little bit farther and a little bit farther. So I think you have to take the steps to get to a championship and get up there and win. And it's very rare that a team's just going to go overnight from worst to first. Now, Langston's basketball team almost did that in a 2-year period, from one win 3 years ago to finishing and should by all rights have won the national championship in the NAIA in men's basketball last year. Sorry, Freed Hardeman, but they gave up those 6 points in the last 55 seconds of that game. Unreal, but one win 2 years before. That is an anomaly. That's not something that you see all the time. So these teams like Montana Western and Indiana Wesleyan and Georgetown, I think they're taking those steps, just like we talked about Friends, Mid-American Nazarene, Concordia, all taking steps. And you look at the teams that are left. Kaiser's defending national champions. Grandview maybe just taking the steps now to get back. 2013 champions, it's been a while, but they have not lost a regular season game in 6 years. Are you kidding me? Exactly. So this is a Grandview team that's been needing to take these steps in the playoffs. So we'll see if they can get back to that championship once again, which is where they were back in 2021. Benedictine, it's been a little while. So this is a team, again, I believe, taking steps. We'll see if they're able to take another one next week on the road. And then Morningside, we know what Morningside's done. 3 national championships here in recent years, and, a step back or two in the last couple of years. This is a team that could get back up there and do it one more time. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about taking those steps and that being something that's there. Hey, listen, before we look really quickly at these last 2 graphics, which talks about next week's game, let me remind you that if you haven't already subscribed, I would love to have you subscribe to the channel. It's one of those cool things that we see. I think it's a number that makes a difference. It's not the end-all be-all number. And let me say that really quickly for those watching, whether you're watching live or you're watching the video on demand here. It's not the end-all be-all number as to whether or not that I'm going to get up here and get to talk to you about NAIA football, Division II basketball, whatever the case may be. We cover small college sports and more throughout the Midwest and beyond here on this channel, and mainly Division II and NAIA sports. Those are our main points of focus that we like to get down and like to talk about. So that's not the end-all be-all number, but it is a cool number. It's one of those things that I do think, whether or not they say it helps with the algorithm, I think it kind of does. And mentally, it helps when you see that number out there to go, hey, this guy's got some subscribers, so we might want to pay attention too. So tell a friend too. If you've already subscribed, let somebody else know so that they can subscribe as well, and we'll continue to grow that number. We're pushing for 2,000. So we'll get there. Anyway, just wanted to mention that. All right, let's look. And next week, well, we have the weather forecast. Michael, who has given us the weather forecast and will be at that game. I'm very, very, very sure he'll be there to watch one Wyatt Brooks for the Kaiser Seahawks. 78 degrees in West Palm Beach. I don't know about you all watching this, wherever you happen to be watching this. I doubt sincerely that it's going to be 78 degrees wherever you all happen to be watching. So I'm going to check really quickly because I think I still have, well, if this app will come up, I have it on my hometown here. Let me find out. Okay, it's 49 in Des Moines right now, at least according to this weather app. So, Michael, high of 40 next week in Des Moines. Yeah, there we go. All right, so let's talk about this one really quickly. This is actually the first meeting between Benedictine and Kaiser. No surprise on that one because Kaiser is a relatively new program. And so, that they're taking on a team from Atchison, Kansas. I'm not shocked at all that they haven't met before. And so Benedictine pushing along, making its plays into the playoffs. Also, because of where they are in the parts of the country, it would be very unlikely for these two teams to meet early on in the playoffs if they're going to make the playoffs because of their lack of a proximity. And the NAIA wants to keep teams close, especially in those first rounds. So it comes a point where you can't make that decision anymore. And Benedictine traveling from Atchison out to West Palm Beach. So this one could be fun. I think we could see elements of offense and defense on this one. I'm going to say this. I'll probably say it again on Thursday night when we talk about these two teams. I would not be surprised to see two defenses battle it out. But I wouldn't also, I would not be shocked if Kaiser's able to open something up that it does. I don't know that I can see at this point Benedictine opening up, 20, 30-point lead on the road at West Palm Beach against Kaiser. I could see it more of a defensive battle there, and what, again, Coach Osborne's been able to do, the defense has been able to do. You got Dalton Witherspoon just taking care of business, grinding it out, and getting it done. And Jackson Dooley able to find, whether it be a Jacob Gathright, Todd over the middle, finding someone long range to get down there. This one should be good. Should be a lot of fun, and we have two very strong coaches going up against one another there. We'll talk about it a little bit more, but as we're wrapping up our time here tonight, another in-state battle for Grandview, another GPAC opponent for Grandview. And this one, another big name. I mean, you're getting some headliners coming to Des Moines. Last week, it was Northwestern, the team that had made it, or I say last week, it was yesterday, but the team that had made it to the national championship game in back-to-back years going into Des Moines in Northwestern, a national championship to their credit a couple of years ago. Morningside, not that far removed from 3 national championships, and of course, a headlining name definitely in the 21st century. What Coach Ryan has been able to do in his time with the program, fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Morningside and Grandview. The trip from Sioux City, relatively close to what it would be from Orange City to Des Moines. So you're working from the western border going to the central part of the state there, the capital. Should be another good game. Another game in MediaCom, so going to be there off campus, but obviously, in the last 2 weeks, Grandview has just simply made itself at home. 4th shutout of the year, that defense was able to slow down what Northwestern did. It's pretty big to get a shutout in the playoffs. This will be the 4th time that these two teams have met, by the way, all of them coming in the NAIA playoffs. And you want to talk about shutouts? Back in 2013, Grandview shut out Morningside 35-0. I realize that was 11 years ago for all the Stangs fans. That was in the semifinals. Grandview went on to win its national championship in 2013. Morningside in recent years, in 2019, a 5-point win in the semis, and then the championship game in the fall of 2021. Morningside 38-28 over Grandview in that title contest. So there we go. Michael's going out on a limb. I went out on a limb a couple times similar to this, or at least I was told I was not going that far out on the limb there in the August forum, picking an Iowa team to be in the national championship game. It's a bold move, Cotton. I got to tell you, we'll see if bold strategy, Cotton. We're going to see if this one plays out for you. But no, I agree with you. I think that's going to happen as well. So there we go. Let me go ahead and throw this one up here too. Andrew Simpson, never underestimate the desire of a Midwestern team playing for a chance to play somewhere beautiful. The Iowa teams are going to be going all out. Yeah, they'll be playing that championship game in Durham, North Carolina, and that one should be a lot of fun. I hope it's a very pretty day there on that Saturday, December 21st, which is 13 days from today as of this recording. I don't want to take away from the desire of a Midwestern team playing for the chance to do anything at all. Iowa, strong football state. Iowa, strong wrestling state. Oh my goodness. Grandview, with all the wrestling titles they have, that is 2 or 3 videos in and of itself. But that one should be a lot of fun to watch. So defense, Grandview's already shown itself to be a strong defense, or to have a strong defense this season. Morningside, we've been talking about that defense more and more and more. As a matter of fact, the 24 points that Montana Western put up on the board was more than the previous 4 games that Morningside had given up combined So I think that's really more of a statement of what the Bulldogs did on Saturday than the fact the defense is letting up. The defense made a statement there in the second half and held the Bulldogs scoreless. So this one should be a good one. We'll talk about it a little bit more on Thursday night. Our top 5 performers again for the weekend, because that's what this show specifically is all about: Eli Norse, Javi Blomquist, Jackson Waring, Shea Spencer, and Drew Sellen. Shout out to everyone tonight. Thank you again for watching. It means a lot to me. I always go and tell Mrs. Midwest Sportsnet, how much fun I had getting to talk to you all. And let me make sure. Shout out to Andrew, to Michael tonight, Dale and Dave, Lenny. Thank you for being on tonight. Roll stings from Lenny. Lennox had a big day as well. Scrambled eggs in again tonight. Thank you for being a part of the broadcast. Jana, thank you for stopping by. Roger, as always, thank you for stopping by tonight. And I appreciate you guys being part of the show. So thank you. Thank you, Jana. I appreciate that. I would love to be in either one of these places. Not going to happen on this Saturday, but I will tell you, it's been a fun day in here and behind Studio B in there. Grand boy number 3, grand kid number 4 overall has been in here, and I get to hold a 9-day-old grandson. So that's been a lot of fun. So it's taking care of a family at this point in time, continuing to get better too. So a couple more checkups going along, but I want to praise God for just being able to talk to you. So Michael, thank you. Dale, thank you. God bless you all. You guys have a great, great night. And I believe that shuts things down for me tonight. I'll tell you, there's a chance for more than one interview on between now and Thursday. So I'm hoping to get a couple more in, and they will be about NAIA football. So in the meantime, God bless you all. Have a great night. Michael, we do need to get a shirt out to you. I'm actually working on these now. We've got one place in town that I know can do it, but we're looking at another place as well that really wants to do more embroidery. So we're working on that. We'll try to get something your way. Dave, God bless you all. I'm glad I got to see that before I shut everything down. Thank you for watching tonight. All of you, hey, listen, we'll talk again for sure, for real and for live on Thursday night. So in the meantime, God bless you all. Have a great night. We'll see you then.